Hey Chris, look, I thought I'd do a little video here because, quite honestly, and I said it in the comments, the way you just broke off that conversation was cowardly, man. That was very substandard. Look, and I expected more of you. It's pretty dodgy, but I want to just address the comments what I'm making and do it in this fashion because just to flesh out the argument. And I'll start with the first comment I did, and it was, you presuppose a God that you have no way of proving exists and inserting him in as the pithy justification thing. Please choose a fallacy. Okay, to do this, to insert this God in as this justification thing that you go on about, you've got to use circular reasoning. You've got to use special pleading. You've got to beg the question. There's just so many dodgy argument techniques that you've got to use to go this God way. And I think you sort of know that because in your next comment, you go, that's right, I cannot justify God. That's what a presupposition is. Thus, in turn, when you presuppose logic, who does that? You put your faith in something you cannot justify. Thank you for proving my point. So you cannot justify God. Then how can you justify logic? Do you understand? You're just bouncing around in a box. If you can't justify the platform for what you use in every argument to try and promote this sort of garbage, then you've got a problem. You are guilty of the thing that you are accusing every atheist of not being able to do, and that's justify logic. And why do we have to justify logic anyway? What does that even mean? It's a really strange thing to say. Can you justify logic? I don't think you can. You've admitted that you can't justify God. You can't prove that God exists. Yet you somehow insist that you can justify logic and thus have the upper hand in this argument. It's a waste of time. Utterly devoid of anything of worth. Now, here's the comment where you broke off the conversation, and you need to read up. This is you talking. That you need to read up on this subject, because when you call a presupposition a fallacy, it shows me that you don't understand this subject. So I can't respond to you any further. Have a wonderful day. Laughing smiley face thing. That's substandard, man. Like, it's so typical of the presuppositionalist to get out of an argument that way. Saitan Bureaucrate and his dumb mate, what's his name, Hovind, does it the same way. When they're losing an argument, how can you know that? How can you know that? And all that ridiculous circular rhetoric that means nothing. It's just an annoying little argument thing. You used to, just to finish an argument, used to say, well, come on to my show. And when the dude said, no, well, I can't, or I won't, for whatever reason, you just cut off, what, I'm not talking to you anymore. Now, you can't do that with me anymore because I've been on your show, and you've got a waiting list of atheists now who want to be on the show. You've admitted it. So that little justification of bailing out of an argument is impotent now. But this one takes the cake. I mean, really, honestly, that was really substandard, man. Okay, I'll go this comment as well, because it's got to do with your caption thing that you do, which you know that I disagree with, but you continually do it. My comment is at 8:20, your caption is so incredibly wrong. An axiom is a statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. How is this in any way a pithy cultural meme? Okay, which you alluded to the fact that this is what an axiom is, when it so obviously isn't. Your reply comment was, I can't answer that until you come up with a justification for universal, invariant, unchanging entities, like the laws of logic, in an atheist universe, because you would require use of the laws of logic in answering the question. If you cannot do this, then you are borrowing from my worldview to answer the question and thus concede the argument. You can call something wrong till you're blue in the face, and it won't mean a thing until you can justify the laws of logic in an atheist universe. That is the most bizarrest thing I've ever heard. It's like you just define things and make things up. That it sounds like a coherent argument in your mind, but it's not. It's not a coherent argument. I can't answer that until you come up with a justification for universal, invariant, unchanging entities. Why do I have to come up with that at all to have a logical conversation? You've admitted that I can use logic. You've admitted that I can have arguments. You've admitted that I can address points. Yet, I need to come up with this to somehow be able to make a point. That's ridiculous. Because you would require use of the laws of logic in answering the question. That's generally what we use laws of logic for. We don't have to justify them to have a coherent argument. And once again, please explain this justification thing. It's really bizarre. I think it's just another thing that you've sort of, a part of the argument you've inserted in there, defined into existence. It's something we have to do. We have to justify this, but the criteria for not justifying it are very vague, because there's no sort of penalty for not. Because I can use logic. I can, the same thing with morality. You go on, you use the exact same structure for morality. And yet you say that as an atheist I can be moral. What's the use of even bringing it up? If you cannot do this, then you're borrowing from my worldview to answer the question. I really hate that word, worldview. It simplifies somebody's basic expression of themselves and the way they view reality and the way they operate in reality to a pithy little word that seems to be all the rage in the Christian community at the moment. But I'll use it for the sake of brevity. And in that, why would I borrow from your worldview? It's illogical. You believe in miracles. You believe in things that operate not on logic, not on reason, and can be perfectly acceptable to you. In your world, God can decide that you'll wake up tomorrow morning and be a duck. Is there, you don't have to know the reasons for that. All of a sudden, you're not Chris anymore. You live in that world. Why would I borrow from that worldview? Why? It's ridiculous. If you cannot do this in your borrow, and thus concede the argument, what a lot of garbage. You can call something wrong till you're blue in the face, and it won't mean a thing until you can justify the laws of logic in an atheist universe. Now that part of the comment you've admitted is not the case. And it won't mean a thing until you can justify the laws of logic. And once again, you say we can use the laws of logic. You say we can be moral. You say that atheists are just as everything that a Christian is, except that there's this nebulous justification thing that doesn't really have any penalties for not doing it. You've got to really sort of flesh that out. That it's just ridiculous. So, I'd be happy to come on your show again, discuss it. I'm going to make this public. It's all good. So, in the end, Chris, I think you've got to work on your argument a little bit. You've accused atheists of just coming on your show and bringing up the same stuff. You don't give us anything more to work with. This just keeps going around and round and round and round. If you want better arguments, mature your own, because these few comments are all over the place, man. All right. Now you have a good day.